Hey you guys, and welcome back to CineGrade, the podcast where we take a movie and give it a score in 5 different categories of filmmaking, after which we give it its own personal grade. My name is Chelsea.
My name is Elsha.
And we are both film students and movie lovers based in Vancouver, BC. And this is our first podcast.
Yay!
Isn't that exciting? Today we're talking about a movie that is very personal to my childhood.
Ooh.
What about you?
I definitely watched this a lot when I was a kid. I don't know if I remember watching this, like, the first movie too much as a kid, because for some reason on, like, TV they always did, like, runs of all of the movies, and for some reason my family always decided to turn on the like, rerun of all 3 movies when it was the third movie. So I remember the third movie a lot as a child.
That's the saddest thing I've ever heard.
It really is. But we still watched the first movie a ton. And it is, like, one of the best movies that I remember growing up watching, and I was like, this is great. It's just so fun.
The fact that Back to the Future 3 is the movie that you remember most out of all the trilogies.
No, not the third one.
Oh, the first one?
I remember the first one. I just remember watching the third one the most randomly.
Do you remember seeing it for the first time?
I don't know if I do.
Because, like, this is a movie that every summer me and my brother would watch this trilogy over and over. Like, at least once a summer. We would watch all 3 of them. If not, like, twice a year would I watch them all. But I think the first one's definitely the one I've seen the most, and the third one I've seen the least, because I think the third one's the worst. It is.
I mean, it definitely is the worst, but for some reason I've seen it. I think it's just that TV stations like playing the third one for some reason. I don't know why.
I don't know if I've ever seen this movie played on TV.
Yeah, I think around Christmas they like to do, like, runs of all 3 movies.
Why?
I don't know why. It's kind of like Harry Potter. They do a bunch of runs of Harry Potter at Christmas. Who knows why?
Yeah, it's kind of weird now because we don't really have those cable movies.
Yeah,
like,
it was one
back
of the, like...
then. I mean, back when people had cable. I mean, they still do to an extent, but, like, now it's like streaming services are really what you're going on. Like, those movies would just play over and over.
Yeah, people... I mean, it's a series that is loved, obviously. Everyone loves Back to the Future.
Yeah.
So it's just one it's very easy to watch, too. You can just kind of catch in whenever what's happening. You know what's happening.
Yeah.
It's just a good one to put on the TV.
Like, I can't remember a time before having seen Back to the Future.
Really?
Yeah, we watched it. I mean, my parents were kind of at the age where, like, when I think my mom was, like, 24 when this movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
And they're kind of older, so I don't know if it's because my parents were at that age or if... like, that's why I've seen it so much, because they've shown it to me.
Maybe.
Like, it blew my mind when I got to, like, grade 7, and there were people who hadn't seen this movie.
Wow.
It blew my mind more when I got to, like, university, and there were people who hadn't seen the movie.
Definitely, like, I know my family really liked it, because also, like, my brother's very sciencey.
Yeah.
He likes sciencey things, so even as, like, a child, he really liked sciencey stuff, so it was also, like... a good one for our family to watch for my brother's interest, because he loved sciencey things, and we were like, oh, he's just in this movie. We can imagine.
Even with all the probably not scientifically accurate stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's still fun.
Yeah.
It's a great movie.
It's one of maybe the most iconic movies I can think of.
It is very iconic.
And I feel like the 80s really tended to have those characters. Like, I feel like the 80s has more iconic characters than any other decade of film.
It is weird.
It's not necessarily have the best movies.
It's weird to think that, there's so many characters from the 80s.
Like, who's an iconic character?
I mean, we're thinking about Back to the Future.
Indiana
but, like,
Jones?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, man, that is 80s.
Yeah, indeed.
Oh, man.
Star Wars, that was like late 70s, but like 2 of those movies
still,
came out
yeah.
in the 80s.
There's a lot of iconic things from
I
the 80s.
just feel like if we thought harder about it, I'm pretty sure lots of them come from the 80s.
Yeah.
Anyways, I guess we'll get into fun facts about this movie. It was written by Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale after Bob Gale had a yearbook with his father in it where it showed that he was class president, and he was like, oh, I never knew that. I wonder if I'd be friends with my father if I went back in time. So that was sort of the basis idea for it. So they started writing the script, and I think it was a lot different at the beginning. I think the DeLorean was originally a time-traveling refrigerator.
Oh my god. I think that'd be great.
I think that's exponentially worse.
It would make it much more of a meme of a movie than like a cool movie. You know, he's like, I'm making it out of a car. It's gonna be cool.
Well, I mean, imagine Doc Brown being like, yeah, I made a time...
refrigerator.
You made a time machine out of a refrigerator? Out of a Frigidaire.
Sponsored by Frigidaire.
Is that what it's called?
I think so. There's a bunch of different brands of refrigerators.
Anyways,
Samsung.
So they wrote the movie, but it ended up getting rejected over and over mostly because at the time, in the 80s, it wasn't sexual enough. This is a time when, like, Porky's was the type of movie that was coming up to be big, so if it wasn't enough, like, raunchy teen comedy, people didn't think it would be big.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of a trend that comes along when you get to, like, those John Hughes movies that I love, because his movies, you know, like The Breakfast Club or Ferris Bueller's Day Off just weren't raunchy enough. People didn't think they were going to work.
But they did.
But obviously that's wrong, because movies like, Back to the Future is huge.
Yeah.
And I don't know anybody in my life who's ever seen Porky's. I haven't even seen that movie. So it's interesting where at the time they thought that was going to be and I guess to an extent it was the big thing, because those movies were popular, but these other movies I guess they tended to have more of the deeper meaning that people actually wanted.
I think it's kind of the difference between, like, things that are just popular at the time and things that actually, like, mean something and stick in society. Because something can be popular at the time and everyone loves it and they're like, oh, it's great. Mm-hmm. But, like, there's select things that everyone will love at the time, but they just, like, hold something that, like, works with every generation after it too. So they actually stick. Like, TikTok's not gonna stick.
Well, that's like a medium
but
of
it's like
entertainment.
But it's kind of the same idea where it's like there's a lot of like media things that people are like, oh, we love this, it's great, everyone's gonna do this, but it doesn't stick around. It, like, things change over time, but then there'll be one kind of thing that kind of sticks through all of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. So they had the movie. It kept getting rejected. They even brought it to Disney, but
really.
Disney was like,
Back to the Future, but by Disney.
Mom likes her son and wants to be with him. It's a bit too incesty for us. So they rejected it.
Except that Star Wars.
Well, that wasn't Disney at the time.
But it is now.
I guess so, and that wasn't even really like that. But anyways. So they were actually decided, okay, well, maybe we'll bring it to Spielberg, because Spielberg was kind of their friend. But he had let them down because they had used him as a producer on 2 other movies before, which I think was Used Cars and I Want to Hold Your Hand, both of which were flops.
Yeah.
So Zemeckis was like, I can't go with him again and have another flop because no one's going to let me direct anymore. So he ended up doing a movie called Romancing the Stone the year before this, which was actually pretty big. And he decided, okay, now that I'm a good enough director, people will trust me. We'll go back to Spielberg. And Spielberg really liked the script, so he decided to make it under Amblin Entertainment. Which, you know, I mean, Spielberg, it's hard to say I don't know if I trust Spielberg.
Yeah, what a thing to say.
Because even at the time, I think, when did E.T. come out? I think it was definitely before this.
What's it?
Definitely. It was like 82 or something. And then Jaws was a huge movie, too. Yeah. So he was like this mega director.
But I don't trust Spielberg.
But I guess, it's understandable. Robert Zemeckis, to me, is just such a strange figure in film history. Because he makes, like, really crazy good movies, like, Back to the Future, but Forrest Gump, that won the Best Picture.
Yeah.
And then goes on to make, a movie that I actually like, which is The Polar Express. I know.
Here's the thing, I like The Polar Express, but I just don't like the animation.
Yeah.
But I like the story.
I don't. But that's beside.
We're not talking about The Polar Express.
And he makes, there's this other movie he did, Welcome to Marwin.
Oh, yeah.
Which I saw. Which
I have not seen.
With Steve Carell. It's really recent. And that movie just wasn't good at all.
That didn't look good.
No. And he's not the type of director who I feel like gets talked about too much. And I feel like, I don't know, there's lots of I think lots of people get grouped. So you have, like Spielberg and Lucas and, I don't know, probably somebody else. and then like he's not like a Tarantino or a Scorsese.
Yeah, he's not in
even though he's made lots of mega movies.
He's definitely not in that like category of directors where everyone kind of knows. Like you say their name and people are like, "Oh, I know of them," even if they haven't seen a movie from them. You know of them.
Yeah.
He's definitely not in that category.
But Robert Zemeckis, but I don't know. I'm always just iffy on a Zemeckis movie.
It'll either be great or
it'll be like really good, or like why did I do this to myself? So anyways, they decided to make it under Amblin Entertainment, and one person who I think I want to mention only because Steven Spielberg did a really baller move that I want to talk about.
Okay.
Sid Sheinberg, he was an executive producer, and he decided to make some changes to the script, such as changing Marty's mom's name from Meg to Lorraine, changing Professor Brown's name to Doc Brown, and then finally thought, I need to change the name from Back to the Future to Spaceman from Pluto, because no good movie has ever had the word future in it.
Spaceman from Pluto.
So he was a pretty powerful figure. I think he was financing a lot of this movie. And they're like, Spaceman from Pluto, this is a terrible name.
That's probably the worst name. That sounds like a weird, like, animated Disney movie that no one knows about and just sits in the vault.
Well, it's because there's a scene where he's like, George goes, I can't ask Lorraine out, not you or anybody else on this planet will change my mind. And then he comes and he's like, I am Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan.
Yeah.
And that was the Spaceman from Pluto thing. So he's like, yeah, this is what we're gonna do to make it this name. And they're like, this is a terrible name. We don't know what to do. So Steven Spielberg decides, all right, he writes a letter to Sid Sheinberg, and he says, hey, got your memo about the name change. It was the funniest thing we've ever seen. It made the whole office crack up. Thanks for it. Your friend, Steve. Or whatever. He sent that back, and Sid Sheinberg was like, yeah, ha 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 ha. And you have to have some sort of power to make that kind of move with your executive director.
It's so funny. What a terrible name, though. Really.
I mean, it could have been me being here, being like, have you ever seen Spaceman from Pluto?
And everyone would be like, yeah.
Yes.
I have seen that movie.
Indeed, I have. So, anyways, let's get into the scoring then. That's all I have for you for pre-production. So, we're going to go through each category and give what we feel the movie deserves as a ranking out of 10. At the end of all 5 rounds, the film will have a chance to win up to 3 bonus points in the bonus best round, after which we will add up the scores from the categories and add the bonus points to give us a score out of 100.
Nice.
Okay, round 1, story score. Scoring based on writing, plot structure, and story beats. Give me first off, what are your thoughts on the story in general?
I mean, it's a pretty iconic story. It's one that also is like, nothing really was like it before its time.
Yeah.
It kind of like was the founder of time travel movies, I would say.
I don't know. That's true.
I don't know if that, but like of good ones.
I guess so.
You know?
It's really, I mean, it is a very original idea.
Yeah.
It's a movie that's not based off of any previous source material.
Which I think it would give it a good score. It's pretty original. I mean, it's not now because everyone spoofs off of it, but at the time.
Yeah, and it was
great.
Something that, I mean, it was rejected so many times, I think because it was something that was so new. So, do you have a score?
I'll give it a 9 initially.
I gave it a 9.5.
Ooh.
I'm gonna tell you why.
Okay.
This script is, I think, extremely well written.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where nothing that anybody says doesn't matter. Which is a better way to say it is everything that they say matters.
Yeah.
Every line gets paid off at some point in the movie. You know, it's like, I have some examples.
Ooh.
There's like stuff like anything that you see in that beginning scene with the clocks, they go through, and it's, first of all, that's just great because the sound of it's good, and it really helps grow that sort of interest into the movie. And they have all of the stuff on the walls that's just really important, talking about, you know, Doc Brown, who his family fortune. You get the sense of like Doc Brown is this crazy scientist guy who I think he had a lot of family money, and he used all that money to go into his inventions.
Mm-hmm.
And you get the plutonium thing where they talk about how the Libyan terrorists have taken the plutonium, or they stole it from somewhere, and you get the skateboard hitting it. So you have all of that done without any dialogue, first off the bat there. And then you just have lots of little things later on. There's like the re-elect Mayor Goldie Wilson, and they go back in time and they meet Goldie Wilson in the wherever in the diner.
Yeah.
They have the breeding pine trees that they talk about, and then later on, and the Twin Pines Mall.
Yeah.
And then later on, when Marty knocks over the tree that comes back and it's Lone Pine Mall, it's like every little detail.
It is very well done with details.
And I think that writing this movie probably would have been the worst.
Oh my god. I think any time travel movie, you look at like, you would have to have like strings across a wall being like, okay, this connects to this, which connects to this happens, meaning this happens here. Oh my god, it'd be the worst.
And so I think you'd have to have like the flashcard thing where you go, okay, here's a story beat. You know, Marty goes back in time and pushes his dad out of the way so that his mom then in turn doesn't fall in love with his dad. And then, okay, if that happens, then how is that going to affect the future? Which is like the main storyline. Then you have the little things that happen later on. How is the next thing that happens going to affect this? And then if this happens, oh, but how do we have to change the beginning? Because everything that happens later on in the movie is affected at some point, or changes something in the beginning. They're going to have to really plan that out.
Yeah, you have to plan it out so that it also, you realize that there's a change. Like, if they're planning to then go to the past and then do something that changed something later, they're going to go back, obviously. You have to kind of, like, set that up so that you, when they actually do go back, you see that it is a change. And it's not, like, so subtle that you don't, like, even notice it.
Yeah,
it has to pay off. And I think they do that really well.
Yeah, it's just... What a movie. It's almost like I don't know if I've ever seen a movie that has so much payoff for every individual line.
It is kind of amazing. Even just like small lines that you think are kind of write-offs, they come back later and you're like, oh, I get why they said that, or why they put so much emphasis in that. Mm-hmm. It is really well done with that.
Yeah, like, or I don't know, even like the little things like, oh, your uncle didn't make parole, and then he goes back and Uncle Jailbird Joey and his little bars.
Yeah.
Like, those are little jokes, and I feel like they would, like, there's so many of those things that they're going to have to write in there that they're going to have to probably affect back and forth. So, there are some plot holes.
Definitely.
Do you want to talk about some plot holes?
Sure.
The Chuck Berry scene where he plays Johnny Be Good.
Yeah.
And then he calls him. He's like, Chuck, it's your cousin Marvin Berry. I'm like,
Marvin.
And then, so Chuck Berry hears, I guess, half of the song and then decides, okay, I'm going to steal this song. Which is, first of all...
pretty rude.
I mean, but also is like, he kind of, I guess Marty creates rock and roll.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know how to feel about that.
Well, and also, if you think about it with it doesn't that kind of create a weird time loop of like, well, he would have had to have hurt, like, I don't know. It creates a weird thing with the time travel.
I mean, so yeah, I guess Chuck Berry hears half of Johnny Be Good and then goes, how does he get the beginning of it? But I think there's some things, like, I've heard this sort of theory in time travel where, like, whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen anyways. In I've read some stories where it's like...
Some stories of real time travelers?
By stories, I mean fan fiction.
Okay.
About certain things. Or in this one fan fiction I read, it was like, this guy, his mother had died. So he had a time travel machine. He went back in time to try and save his mother, but his mother died anyways of a different cause. And it was like, either way, what happens? His mom was supposed to die then. Does that make sense?
I mean, it makes sense. But also, if we're going to Back to the Future context, wouldn't that mean that his parents were supposed to get together no matter what? So then wouldn't the plot line of him trying to, like,
well,
get
maybe
his parents
that's why
together...
he doesn't completely disappear. I have no idea.
I'm just saying.
I'm not
if you're
saying that's canon time travel law. But there's stuff like that. So, I mean, Chuck Berry having that song, maybe it's always been in him that he knows how the song is supposed to go.
Maybe.
And there's little things like the Goldie Wilson thing, where it's Marty who kind of plants the idea of him becoming mayor in his head. So he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to be mayor. But either way, he becomes mayor.
Yeah.
So maybe that's sort of the way that this time travel works here.
Maybe.
But then by that standard, it would be like, does that mean that his parents are supposed to be losers?
Yeah. I don't know. That's where it gets confusing because everything else changes.
But
Time
then,
travel's confusing.
But then that's another thing with once he goes and knocks George out of the way, and his mom then in turn falls in love with him, shouldn't he just completely disappear?
What do you mean?
Because then he's already stopped them from meeting. I mean, I guess because then he causes them to meet. They kind of slowly disappear.
Yeah.
Was that how that would work?
I don't know. I mean, I guess by them not disappearing immediately, that means that I guess the universe knows that they'll come back. I don't know. I mean, because if he disappeared immediately, like, what would that do? Because then, as time progresses, if you're saying that, or if it could be that they get together anyways, there'd be no point of him disappearing. I don't know.
You know, maybe. But then they all disappear from the picture, right?
Yeah.
And one by one. And then shouldn't the picture just disappear?
Imagine if instead of, like, it is weird that the picture starts fading, and he only starts fading when it's, like, the very end.
Yeah.
That weird fade effect.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine if that was through the whole
that they
movie.
wish they had gotten better.
Yeah.
He's just like a ghost for the whole movie. People can see through him. They're like, what is going on with this random kid?
That would have put a wrench in the movie a little bit.
I mean, yeah. And then also the picture thing where it's like once they all disappear, it's just, there's nothing there. Which means, A, how is this picture here? Because he didn't bring it here. Also, B, why does he have a picture printed out of the backyard?
Yeah.
With nobody in it. Somebody just took a picture of nothing.
They're like, look at my bush.
And so he's just carrying it around. That doesn't make any sense at all.
The whole fading thing in general is a little odd.
Yeah. But then, and then he goes back to the future.
Ooh, I see what you did there.
Yeah, thank you. And then, you know, there's like, his brother lives at home.
Yeah.
But he's like supposedly this successful guy. It's either that or he's there having breakfast.
But he is like ready to, why would you go to have breakfast in your family home and then go to work or whatever?
I don't know.
That's kind of
thing
strange.
That anybody ever actually does.
I would say no.
I feel like I've seen that in like, I don't know, like movies where people decide, oh, like Friends. You know,
they go to their house to have breakfast before going to work. I mean, I guess
don't have time to have breakfast at all. I'm waking up and going to do whatever I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I say that's wrong. That means he just lives in this house with them.
That is strange.
Yeah, and how old is he? I guess we don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. That is kind of strange, though. He's, like, in his suit ready to go to work.
Yeah. And then people are sort of like, what does George McFly do to be able to have, like, this nice I mean, it's the same house, but it's nicer.
Yeah. Everything's, like, shiny.
So what does he do? Because I know he's an author, but she says this is your first novel. When Biff brings it in, I think it's your new book. She goes, your first novel. And
that was a good impression.
Thank you.
Your first novel.
Honey, your first novel. And then, but what do you do? Presumably this man is like 47, right? 'Cause Marty's 17, goes back, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
what did he do before the novel?
Is he a writer of articles? Supposedly, I just don't understand.
I don't know. That's another. I mean, I guess Is that something that you really need to know, though?
But
I know you're
but
asking.
in a movie where every little thing apparently matters, I want this to matter too.
Okay. Well, I don't have an answer for you.
I mean, I'm sure there's many other plot holes.
Yeah.
Which is fine, because nothing really distracts you from... I mean, I feel like it is well explained enough. And I think specifically in Back to the Future 2, they explain the idea of timelines better. When they're like, every time you go, you change the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Which means that Marty going back to his future, he's living in a different timeline, isn't he? Because this is like a life where he would have grown up with this house.
Because they're saying it's that the other reality still exists.
Yeah.
But he just went to a different one.
Which means that
it's
in
the
other reality, Marty's just gone.
Yeah.
Like, he's dead.
Yeah.
This family is grieving their lost son.
This family's grieving because this weird scientist just up and stole their child or something.
In the original timeline, Doc's dead.
Yeah.
Marty's pieced out.
Yeah.
And the rest of the family's still doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
It's
good
confusing.
on Marty, because he has a better life. But
Yeah.
rip original timeline people.
Yeah, pretty much. That's so sad. That puts such a sad look at the first movie.
But anyways, I don't care.
I mean, I'll say that, like, yeah, of course it has plot holes. If it's a time travel movie, there's going to be plot holes. Pretty much any movie's going to have a plot hole or two. Mm-hmm. You can't really have a perfect movie. But, like, I think that the movie does a good job of creating other things that, like, matter and that they explain enough. Mm-hmm. So that the other things, like the small little plot holes, you don't really care that much about them. They're not such a big thing that you're like, oh, that ruins the movie, that I don't know that, or that's not explained. Mm-hmm. Enough's explained that it kind of is fine. Mm-hmm. So.
And I mean, it's just a funny movie.
Oh, it's so funny.
I think that the acting is, I'm not gonna say it's really like great acting, but the comedy chops are there, and I think we can really get into that in the character category.
Yeah, definitely.
So, do you want to cap that off for story?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so what grade are you gonna give it?
I think I'll stick with my 9.
After going through our plot hole things, maybe I should go down to a 9. That's still like 90% in rating. Yeah. I still think it's a really good script.
Yeah, I think the script definitely deserves some credit, a lot of credit, and I think a 90%'s pretty solid.
And this movie is like, I mean, it's been sort of some people are like, is Back to the Future a perfect movie? Which I guess is what we're figuring out with this. And I would say it's probably pretty close. So,
I think it's I mean, I don't think there can be a perfect movie just because of the fact that everyone likes different things. Yeah. And like someone will say that they don't like something that other people love. So you can't really have a perfect movie that caters to everyone. Mm-hmm. But I think it does a really good job of catering to who they're catering to. Mm-hmm. And doing what they want.
Yeah. So, I'll go to a 9.
Okay.
9. Okay. So both saying 9. That'll give us an 18 out of 20 for that one.
Nice.
Okay. Moving on to round 2, character counts. Scoring based on casting, character development, and relationships. Initial score.
The characters are pretty strong in this movie. Mm-hmm. It again goes to the same. I mean, it's similar to like the story. The characters are also written very well, and I think the actors do a great job. Mm-hmm. They really like embody their character, and it's really fun to see that. I'll go 9 again initially.
Okay, hear me out.
You give it a 10.
10.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll tell you why. First off, I'm gonna go character by character on this. Marty, and this is where I'm gonna bring up the thing that's just far too big for me not to talk about.
Yeah.
Which is Eric Stoltz.
Oh, poor Eric.
Here's the
Rip
thing.
Eric.
So, originally they wanted to cast Michael J. Fox, but he couldn't do it because he was doing the TV show Family Ties. Mm-hmm. And I think at the time, the woman who played the mom, what's her name? Meredith Baxter, I think is her name. She was pregnant, so they had to she couldn't be too much in the show, so they had to really rely on Michael J. Fox's character. So he just couldn't do it. They were like, no, you can't have him. So they were like, okay, we're going to go with our next two choices. So then it was between C. Thomas Howell and Eric Stoltz. C. Thomas Howell was in The Outsiders. Have you seen The Outsiders?
I have seen The Outsiders.
He was like Pony Boy in that.
Oh, yeah.
He's pretty cute.
He
I honestly think he would have been better for this role than Eric Stoltz.
Ooh, hot take.
But they were like, okay, we're going to go with Eric Stoltz because he was like a pretty big actor. Not big, but he was like good.
Yeah.
And he had this kind of method approach to it. He was walking around being like, call me Marty.
Oh my god.
And people were like,
I think,
okay.
Oh my god. If I was on set, and you know, you're just minding your business, you're crafty. How about this? You're a crafty. And, you know, he walks up, gets some snacks. You're like, oh, hi. Call me Marty.
You're like, oh, hi, Eric. He's like,
Call me Marty.
Who?
Sorry, I don't speak to that
I
name.
respond to Marty or McFly.
Only.
Nothing else.
I'd want to die.
And him and, what's his name? Tom F. Wilson, who plays Biff, they didn't get along at all.
Yeah.
I heard an interview with him, and he was like, apparently there's the scene where in the cafeteria where they kind of have that standoff fight, and Marty pushes Biff, and apparently Eric Stoltz was like seriously pushing him. He was like rubbing his hand, like just ramming it into his collarbone.
Rip.
And Tom F. Wilson is like, hey, Marty, this is a movie. This is what he said. And he's like, we don't have to do it like this. But he was so method.
Yeah.
And he thought that he didn't think it was a funny movie. He thought it was like dramatic. And this is a really sad story. I've gone to the past. I can't get back to my home. What am I going to do? So, which is like ridiculous because the premise is so insane that you have to play it funny.
It's interesting to like knowing that was an option. Imagine Back to the Future, but like serious. It'd be terrible.
You can see some of the footage with Eric Stoltz. It exists. They shot for like 6 weeks with him.
I know.
They shot most of the movie.
But imagine like that if Marty was actually like that in the movie. Like I know you can see him. Like,
yeah.
But like
imagine the actual thing.
Yeah, imagine the whole movie, but serious. It's
interesting to see, like, if they had kept Eric Stoltz, what would it be now? Like, what would the legacy of Back to the Future be?
Yeah, it might not even be that. It might not even really be considered that much of, like, an iconic movie. Because I don't think it being serious would really lend itself to...
I think Michael J. Fox is such a big part of why that movie was such a big deal.
Yeah. I think it would have a different like legacy because people wouldn't think of it as like a fun kind of like family fantasy kind of, not fantasy, but you know what I mean. Like you wouldn't think of it as like a fun movie. It
would just be Eric Stoltz going around and being
moping.
Like, I can't get back to the future. My mom's in love with me.
Oh.
And just crying.
Yeah.
And I think what makes it even worse is, like, imagine him next to Doc.
Yeah.
Doc is insane.
Yeah.
Like, imagine this brooding teenager next to this crazy scientist.
It would, clash so much.
Yeah, so, I mean, so he didn't get along with Tom F. Wilson. And then I think people were just like, he's just too serious, and he wasn't exceptionally nice, but... So they ended up being like, okay, we gotta let him go. He's gotta go. So they fired him. And then I think at this point, I think the woman had her baby on Family Ties. So they were like, okay, you can have Michael J. Fox, but he still has to be here to shoot Family Ties. So he ends up shooting Family Ties in the daytime and Back to the Future at night between 6:30 p.m. and 2:30 in the morning. Every day he's shooting Back to the Future and Family Ties, which is absolutely insane.
Raking in the money, man.
Well, yeah, and especially after it's released. So anyways, I think it's probably the greatest decision they've ever made.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably the best recasting. And maybe the saddest.
Poor Eric.
Poor Eric Stoltz. But I mean, he went on to do pretty good things. I think it'd be
Yeah.
sadder if it was like he never did anything again in his life.
Yeah, he at least had a career. It wasn't
Yeah.
just the end.
So, but anyways, let's talk about Marty McFly.
It's just I'm saying fun a lot. He's very fun though. I feel like the character is pretty like not relatable, but like he's pretty like
He's
I can't speak right now.
very strange in his family because he's like the black sheep.
Yeah.
And I think it came up when I was watching this video about flat arc characters, and that Marty McFly doesn't really have an arc. I mean, he kind of does. I think more so he's on the path to become like his family, because he does he does like the Battle of the Bands audition at the beginning. You know, he really wants to be a rock star.
Yeah.
And then they're like, "You're just too darn loud," and he goes, I don't know if I can do it anymore. I don't think I can handle that kind of rejection. What if they say, "Get out of here, kid, you have no future?" And we're all like, "Oh, I get it." And his family's like, he goes to dinner and they're like, "You know what, you don't need that kind of pressure, Marty. You should just stop." And they're all telling him, you know, don't follow your dreams. So that's really like the only piece of character growth that he needs to overcome. And it's so subtle and little that it doesn't really have any effect on the actual movie.
That is true.
And there's like that one scene where they're in the cafeteria, him and his dad, and he's like, "What are you writing?" And he goes, "Science fiction stories." He goes, "Oh, I didn't know you did anything creative." And he goes, "Yeah, but I don't know if I'll let anyone read them because I don't think I can handle that kind of rejection." And it's like, okay, we get it. You know?
We get it.
He's on the path to becoming a George McFly.
Yeah.
But the flat arc is mostly that he doesn't really change that much in the movie. I mean, even by the end, we don't know if he's, like, confident anymore in what he does. He did play on stage to do the Johnny Be Good thing.
Yeah, he doesn't really... Other than that, though, there's not that much that happens after that in the movie that really shows character change.
Yeah, so...
Because, I mean, he does that, and then he pretty much almost immediately runs to the car and then goes back to the future. And, like, there's not really that much after that shows really growth.
But so the video I watched on the flat arc, which is like that basically all your protagonists should have arcs, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's usually they have this problem and then by the end of the movie they've changed. That's like basic story structure. But in the flat arc, the main character stays the same, but everything around them changes. So really like the actual person who goes through any type of character change is George McFly.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's the one who starts off kind of like a loser.
Yeah.
And in the end actually becomes someone who can stand up for himself and do good things. And it's more so Marty's entire world that changes rather than Marty. Which is fine, you know? That's just another way to write stories. So I think that works out really well for him because he is he's a very likable character. Maybe because he doesn't have so many things that are keeping him down.
Yeah, it might kind of help the fact that he's not dealing with, like, these crazy world problems. And
he already
he does, obviously.
Have to deal with this situation.
Yeah, it's, like, he has one crazy problem to deal with. If he had a ton of other, like, arcing problems, I think it would just get too confusing, and you'd be like, there's too much happening here.
You kind of have to wonder, like, why is Marty so seemingly positive? Because he's on the path, I think, to becoming like his dad, but isn't there because he obviously does believe that you should stand up for yourself because he's the one who teaches his father how to do that. But it's like he was raised in this family that didn't really believe that. So how did he get it? Who do you think he got it from? Is it Doc?
Maybe. Maybe he did get it from Doc. I mean, I think also, like, you wouldn't get every single trait from your family. I think that,
I guess so. I think a part of it is how you're raised. And then also, it's like nature versus nurture.
I think also he's aware that his family's kind of lame. And that, like, they have problems. He's aware of that. So I think if you're aware of that, you kind of do things to counteract that. And hope that doesn't happen to you. Even if it's not that successful, you'll do something to kind of counteract that. So I think it is kind of realistic that he's a bit more outgoing and trying to, like, do things.
Mm-hmm. And he becomes kind of like this crazy iconic character of the 80s. Maybe one of the most iconic characters in film history.
Maybe.
So I think a lot of that's probably due to Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're going to move on to Doc.
Oh, he's so fun. I'm saying that a lot. But he's so crazy that it's just, you see that movie and he just stands out so much because you're like, what a person.
He's like,
imagine meeting someone like that.
He's like dialing it up.
Yeah.
It's like, he could bring it, if he's going to bring it up to like
100, he's bringing it up
here's
to 1,000.
10, he's going to 100.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm just going to play it as crazy as I can.
And it works. Oh my god.
I mean, Christopher Lloyd is really quite a gem.
Oh yeah.
He got cast to play it after John Lithgow couldn't do it. I don't know if you know who John Lithgow is.
I don't.
He kind of is very Christopher Lloyd-y.
Huh.
He was in Third Rock from the Sun, and I think he was the pastor in Footloose, the original one, which I don't really like watching because I'd rather watch the 2011 version.
Yeah. 2011's where it's at.
It's just a good remake.
It is.
But yeah, he gets cast to do it, and I think he's just so eccentric. Everything he does. I feel like he just steals every scene he's in.
I know that because we rewatched it like a couple weeks ago or whatever in preparation, and just the scene where you were like, "Wait, look at him in the background."
Yeah, the scene where Lorraine comes to talk to Marty in Doc's garage, and she's like, "Hi, Marty. Do you want to go to the Enchantment Under the Sea dance with me?" And Doc's just in the background looking at, he's trying to be so nonchalant, but he's just insane, so he can't be.
And then they, I don't know if Marty, looks over, but he, ducks behind the car to try to not be seen. And then you just see him, slowly peeking his head back up to look. It's just so funny. And that's something where, I've definitely noticed it before, but if you only watch him, it is so funny.
It's just every scene he's in, he's so crazy. It's just the one scene where he's like, I apologize for the crudity of this model. I didn't have time to build it to scale or paint it. He has this whole little model of Hill Valley. Imagine if he built it to scale.
I think
he's the one who's building the universal backlot.
I think by scale he meant the buildings are to scale with the bench. I don't think he's meaning to build buildings actually the size
he's like,
of
Marty, I've got to show you something.
I built the entire world.
He just goes in the back and there's the whole studio lot.
Yeah, I think he means to scale, meaning the building is to scale with bench with bench park.
It looks like it's to scale though.
Maybe it's a couple centimeters off.
Okay.
He's particular.
Painted. It's all.
Yeah, and it's not painted.
And then the car, he winds it up and it goes and it sets the trash can on fire and he's like,
do that again.
I can't.
Okay.
And it's this guy, there's no world where Eric Stoltz and this man could be on screen together and it work.
Oh yeah.
He's just so, and I feel like every time he gets introduced, it's really funny because you look at him in 1985 and 1955, he looks the exact same.
He does. He acts the same. He looks the same. He has no growth between those years.
Oh my god.
Oh, it's just so funny.
Just everything that he says. He's like, there's that word again. Heavy. Is there a problem with the gravitational pull in the future? And you're like,
what?
Where did they find this guy?
You're
it's really difficult for me to think of anybody other than him playing this role.
Oh, 100%. It's just, he's so different from any other character also that you can think of.
Well, you watch Rick and Morty, right?
Yeah, I do watch Rick and Morty.
And that's based off of Back to the Future?
Yeah, it's loosely, the main characters are Rick and Morty. But Doc and Marty.
Yeah.
It's loosely the pilot. I don't even know if it was the pilot, but the thing that they sent to the network is hey. I don't know if they even sent it to the network. They made a short.
Yeah.
that was literally just directly a Back to the Future spoof,
But
and
is
it was
he
with I think it was with Doc and Morty, and then they changed it to Rick and Morty or something.
So was Rick the Doc?
Yeah.
Is he like just like a crazier more R-rated version of Doc?
Pretty much. But also like an asshole.
Yeah.
Like an asshole, crazy R-rated version of Doc, but still really insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just something to say about these characters spawning other characters.
But yeah, that's
with
again
their iconicness.
like that's a character that I would like associate with being similar, but it's directly pretty much like because of this movie.
Yeah.
So I can't think of a movie before Back to the Future that has a character that's anything like Doc.
Yeah. He's just insane. He has some of the best lines in this movie.
Oh, he does.
Anyways, George McFly.
Oh, so
Crispin Glover. Crispin Glover is one of the strangest people I think maybe ever in Hollywood. He's a character actor. He's just insane. I feel like you look at the way he's acting, you're like, this guy's gonna have a nervous breakdown and he might murder somebody.
He does have that like weird thing where you're like, you don't know what he's gonna do at any moment, and you're like, it could be anything.
And his hair is always like,
he's capable of
I don't know
anything.
if it's greased or if it's just sweat.
The hairdressers go in before and they put like baby powder in his hair and just immediately it sucks it up and it's just greasy.
The hairdressers go in and they're like, oh, you already look like this because you're so anxious.
We don't have to do anything.
I actually have no idea what he's like in real life. I know he has like this one interview that's kind of famous with David Letterman where he's kind of insane and he does like this high kick almost into David Letterman's face and David Letterman's like, yeah, no, we gotta stop this.
You gotta show me that later.
Yeah. And I know he had problems with, because he doesn't show up in the second one, but they kind of they take his face and they make like some sort of model and they put the actor upside down and he's floating into the room because he threw his back out or whatever. So they make it look like him, but they did it without his permission.
Oh.
So this caused him to actually sue. And then this whole lawsuit he won. It made like this law in Hollywood where you can't like take someone's, I don't know, face and use it or whatever for movies without their permission.
Yeah. Which I mean, I think that's a good law to have.
Which I think in the era of like now with like deep fakes.
Oh yeah, those are scary.
It's insane that they would think, yeah, this is something we can get away with.
Yeah. It's good law.
Yeah, but he didn't end up being in the second movie because he didn't like that the first movie ended with the McFlys getting money and thinking, now we're happy because we have money.
Oh.
Which I don't think is the point, and I feel like he's kind of wrong about. I've seen a couple interviews with him and he seems decently normal, but I don't believe it.
You're like, he's trying to fake it out. He's acting right now.
He's just insane. And I know some people actually don't like the portrayal he does of George McFly.
I don't know. I think it's so awkward. It's just great.
It's so unique.
It is.
I don't know if I've ever seen a character like George McFly before.
Yeah.
And I think they said they're like 50% of the time Crispin Glover, he's just getting it wrong. Like, this is not how we thought this character was going to be.
I don't know. I think it works.
He's kind of endearing in some spots. Like the scene in the cafe where he goes to Lorraine and he's like, "Hi, I'm George McFly. I'm your density." And she's like,
"What?"
She's like, "This guy's actually crazy."
That wasn't acting. That was just her looking at him being like...
That was him being
what?
Like, what's the word? And he goes, "Oh." And he goes, "Destiny." And she's like, "Oh, he's kind of cute." You know? There's always a part of her, I think, that actually kind of likes George. But she's too obsessed with Calvin Klein.
With Calvin Klein.
And so he's endearing, but he's also just so strange. And I don't know if this was... I know they said that it wasn't really what they envisioned the character to be. I don't know if they like this better or if it's worse, but
Well, do you know what they wanted it to be?
no. So
who knows?
I think they probably just didn't want it to be so
Cringy.
big. Not big. Not that he's necessarily like so
over the top.
Yeah, but he's
Yeah.
like very, like just very strange.
Yeah.
And everything that he does, the scene where Biff goes and he's like attacking Lorraine in the car or whatever, and he comes out and he grabs George, or he pushes Lorraine to the ground, and George just like whips his head over and has the most scared expression, and you're like, what is going on?
You're like, oh my god.
His face is so insane. I can't even handle Crispin Glover.
It's so funny though, because yeah, he's insane, but then you put Doc next to him and you're like, no, he's normal.
And do Doc and I don't think they have any scenes together.
They don't. I don't think so.
God, I don't think the world could handle
No.
that much eccentricness in one scene. Anyways, George McFly. Great character development. He's the reason this movie works. He's crazy.
Great.
Lorraine is like low-key, not even low-key, I would say more high-key, like very horny.
Oh, 100%. She's very horny the entire movie.
Like, and maybe it's because it's a time when that wasn't really allowed. Not necessarily allowed, but that wasn't really normal for women at the time.
Yeah.
You know, even in the future, she's like, I never parked with a boy or talked to a boy. I don't know what she says. I think it's maybe not a thing that was very... The 50s was pretty conservative.
Yeah.
But
she is like...
Not for Lorraine.
She is like crazy though. Everyone in this movie is crazy.
She's pretty... She doesn't hold back.
Yeah.
She's like hitting on Marty hard.
Oh yeah, Marty does anything and she's like, oh my god!
And some people are like...
Have you seen him?
It's so weird that Marty's like attracted to his mom. And I'm like, in what scene does he ever show any attraction to his mom?
Yeah.
If anything, he's like, God, this is insane.
Like, even in the first scene, when, like, well, not the first scene, but, like, when he's in the bed.
Yeah.
And he wakes up, and she's there. He's more just like, what is happening?
He's like,
he's not like...
You're so... You're so thin.
But he says that, and it's not, like...
Yeah,
it's not
like
attraction.
Like,
it's like, oh, you look different. It's more like that, but he just says it funnier.
She took off his pants.
That's crazy.
For no reason.
That's scary.
And she's like grabbing his thigh at the dinner table.
Oh my god.
And we're like, And it's strange. Like, I don't know if for some people it does, if it's too weird for them. Because I feel like it doesn't really ever reach a point where you're like, I don't know if I can get on board with this movie. And they said the line that saves that is when she says, when I kiss you, it's like kissing my brother. And I'm like, I don't even know if you need that line. You can tell throughout the whole thing that Marty's not interested in her. But I think it does help with the kiss thing where she's like...
She's like, there's something weird going on here.
That instinctual, like, oh, we're not meant to be together.
Yeah.
So she's kind of crazy. But Leah Thompson is... What a gem. Have you seen her daughter, Zoe Dutch? They look the same.
Okay.
She's an actress. Look out for her. She's pretty much just a carbon copy of Leah Thompson.
Nice.
And Leah Thompson got sucked into the Netflix movie Garbage with Sierra Burgess as a loser.
Oh. I didn't watch that
They
movie.
took Alan Ruck into that movie too. He was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Wow.
I just want to say that I don't like how this is happening with all my 80s actors being sucked into these Netflix movies. It's not fair.
Try what I do, which is just not watch the Netflix movies, and then you don't have to deal with it.
The point is, they shouldn't have to do this. They were iconic 80s actors.
Okay.
Anyways. Okay, Biff Tannen. Thomas F. Wilson was cast in this movie, who, it's actually kind of a sad story. He replaced this guy called J.J. Cohen because J.J. Cohen didn't look intimidating enough to bully Eric Stoltz. Because Eric Stoltz was too tall. So they're like, okay, we're going to get Thomas F. Wilson because he looks intimidating. He can bully Eric Stoltz. J.J. Cohen gets moved to be one of his cronies, and Biff is now the bully. And then they fire Eric Stoltz. And so now Marty or Michael J. Fox is back, and I mean J.J. Cohen probably could have done it because Michael J. Fox is pretty short, so anyone could probably look intimidating next to him. But rip. So Thomas F. Wilson, who I think is actually, this has got to be like one of the most iconic bullies in all of cinematic history.
Yeah.
Because he plays it very well.
Yeah.
And he plays it particularly crazy in the next two movies.
Oh my god.
Where he has a really big part in those movies, playing like lots of the characters in Back to the Future 2.
Yeah, what's happening in Back to the Future 2?
But
just his like I don't know, his presence. You can tell that he's up to something, that he's just gonna make trouble.
And he's apparently a really nice guy in real life.
Yeah.
He does stand up now. And everybody really liked being with him, which is pretty good, because if you are going to play a character like that...
Yeah, you gotta make up for it between takes.
Well, apparently him and Eric Stoltz, they...
did not.
No. So I feel like, I don't know what the other guy would have been like, but...
I think he did a great job.
This is probably a good choice.
Yeah.
And then, similar to that, Jennifer Parker was supposed to be played by Melora Hardin, who is Jan in The Office.
Ooh.
But she got let go as soon as Eric Stoltz was fired because she was too tall for Michael J. Fox.
Oh, no.
So Claudia Wells replaces her, and who she got replaced in Back to the Future 2 by Elizabeth Shue, because I think it was her mom got sick. She had to take care of her, which is pretty sad and very noticeable when you watch Back to the Future 2.
Yeah, you're like, who's this person?
What is this wig doing on this woman?
Yeah.
But now she owns a suit store in Hollywood.
Wow.
So you can get your suit done by her.
Nice.
Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts on characters?
I just think the characters work, like, they all are individually kind of crazy in their own little way, but I think together it just works really well. And I think each character also is very different from really any other movie.
Yeah, they're all really original.
Yeah, they stand out a lot. Like, you think of, like, Doc, and you're like, yeah, it's Doc. There's no character like him, and he's great. There's not really anything to compare it to other than stuff that's, like, parodied off of it, and I think it works. It's just, the characters are just...
I think those relationships are also really strong. The ones between, like, Doc and Marty, it probably shouldn't work, because he's so young, and Doc is so old. But, you know, you feel that connection, even though you don't know how they became friends.
Yeah, you feel the connection, and it's a relationship that they don't really explain.
No.
Like, where this came from, or why. Just why they're friends, and, like, how that relationship works. They don't really describe that, but it somehow is okay.
Yeah, we don't really question it that much.
No.
Final score?
I'll give it a 9.5. I'll go up a little bit.
A 9.5, okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to stick with a 10. I've never seen characters like this before or since, so adding those together, that's a 19.5. Okay, round 3 then. Visual volume, scoring based on cinematography and production design.
All of it was all set.
Yeah,
like the town.
This movie is one of the it's like a very obviously a studio lot movie.
Yeah.
Which is something that I don't know. I don't know many of them that are made today that are like that. Like, you can very well tell.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't really look that real. And if you go to Universal Studios, you can see the actual backlot tour. It doesn't look the same, because obviously they have to make it into different sets. But you can go and you can visit, like, the clock tower and, like, the square or whatever. And, like, even though you can tell that it's a studio lot, it doesn't really take anything away from it.
No, like, I think, especially for its time, I think that the production design's pretty fun. It looks realistic enough.
Yeah, and
it doesn't take you out of it that it's a set. And
it's also interesting, and they said they couldn't shoot on location because they'd have to 50-ify the whole set, right? Everything has to look like that time. So it's just easier to do it on a lot. Yeah. And I think they shot the 50s stuff first because the 80s is so kind of messy and dirty It's easier to shoot the clean stuff and then dirty it up than
Makes
to dirty
sense.
up and then clean it.
Yeah. I will give it... I'll go 8 right now.
I said 9.
Ooh.
I think another thing to talk about in terms of visuals is cinematography, which is done by Dean Cundy, who I have a personal relationship with because...
Whoa.
No, I don't. But I had to do this one assignment in school.
Ooh.
Where I had we had to write about our favorite cinematographer, as if we all have one of those.
Yep. We made it up.
So I was like,
I just found something.
all right, I'm not super into cinematography. Like, I know some people are crazy about it, but to me, like, that's not the most important thing I look for in a movie.
Yeah, me too.
I think I mostly look at character and story, but, like, if your character doesn't draw me in, I probably don't care.
Yeah.
So, but I was like, okay, what movie do I really like the look of? And my first thought was, well, Back to the Future is iconic. I'm going to pick that guy. So I was like, okay, Dean Cundy. And then I had to talk about 3 movies. And I was like, I don't know what else this man has done. But I was like, they better be movies I've seen because I'm not going to go watch a movie just for this. So he done, I think, mostly little horror movies. Like, he did Halloween and The Thing. But he'd also done Jurassic Park in the 90s. So I was like, okay, I can talk about Jurassic Park. You know, they have that one scene with the water droplet and the rear view mirror. Yeah. Things are closer than they appear, you know.
That's like, iconic.
Yeah. And I was like, well, what's the third movie going to be? I'm looking through his IMDb. The only movie I can find that I've seen, The Parent Trap. Starring Lindsay Lohan and Lindsay Lohan. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll write about this. Write about how they are, you know, he had to shoot everything twice. Because he had to do 2 Lindsay Lohans. I got like a 75 on it. So, and that's one of the things that I realized about cinematographers is that they have some of the most, like...
random
they aren't
projects.
Really, they aren't hindered by genre.
No.
Like, directors tend to do things that I feel like not are all the same, but they tend to have similar vibes. Cinematographers do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And they won't necessarily ever even look the same in each movie.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff you'll have like maybe a small collection of stuff where you're like, yeah, you can maybe see that it's the same cinematographer, but then they'll have random stuff.
Oh, you know what else he did? Dean Cundy?
Yeah.
Camp Rock.
Camp Rock. See,
like
what a man.
It's just the most strange thing when you look at any cinematographer.
Wow.
Yeah, so like
pretty
Camp
iconic.
Rock, The Parent Trap, and
Back to the Future. And Jurassic Park.
Wow. So, Dean Cundy.
Yeah.
I think it's just so iconic.
I really like
a lot of the DeLorean stuff is really big. Like,
oh yeah.
The scene with the fire shooting.
Yeah.
That's like peak iconic.
Yeah. The actual cinematography itself, like, it's very simple. I know that, like, again, when we were rewatching it, I was kind of paying attention to, like, the actual cinematography and, like, the shots. And it's interesting how, like, simple the shots are in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, of course, there's the more, like, fun ones with, like, the car actually, like, time traveling and, like, stuff like that. And, like, with the clock tower at the end. There's more, like, complicated stuff. But, like, for individual scenes, they're pretty simple. But it works.
I think that's something we tend to notice. We personally tend to notice it because us being film students, when we first start out, we seem to overthink shots and how many we need to make something good. And so it'll be like one scene and people will be like, I have 10 shots.
And we'll be
and
like,
you're like,
what?
For what reason?
But then you watch a movie like this and I think I mentioned it when we were doing the rewatch.
Yeah.
And I was like, they're only doing like 2 or 3 shots per scene. And we were counting it, and, like, there was some pretty complicated, like, it was, like, a long scene. And they only did, like, 3 shots.
Yeah.
And it works so well.
I mean, they also didn't have a ton of time to shoot with Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, so maybe that's why. I don't know.
But, I mean, you don't really notice that.
Yeah, but even if that was the reason, I think it works really well. And it kind of, like, there's not, like, crazy. I know that since it's, like, a time travel movie, maybe they, like, I could see someone being like, ooh, let's make it more fun. Let's make it more dramatic. We'll have, like, cool shots. But I think it works just having, like, those fun moments. And then the rest of the movie is pretty, like, normal.
Yeah, I guess the action shots with all the time travel stuff are usually where it gets kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Especially in that last scene.
Yeah.
Or not the last one, but when he actually goes back.
When he goes back, yeah. But everything else is pretty, like, not typical, maybe kind of typical, but it's pretty, like, just casually, I don't know.
There's also just, like, so many things that are really iconic, like the skateboarding scene where he, like, the manure truck stuff.
Yeah.
Where the skateboard goes under the car and he climbs over
it, yeah.
Oh, man. Iconic.
That's also spoofed so much. I can't think of an example, but I've definitely seen stuff where, like, people spoof that kind of idea, where something goes under something and someone, like, crawls over it. That's in a lot of action movies, I feel like.
And the lighting, which, I don't know, they do a lot of night stuff.
Yeah, which is probably why.
I hear that the one scene where they have to go get the DeLorean after he meets Doc in the past, and they go to see the flux capacitor, he's like, he shows in the picture of it, it's really foggy. And I've heard that that's because it was shot on the Universal backlot, right? The same place they shot Psycho, and the Psycho house is in the background. So they're like, well, we can't show the Psycho house, so we're gonna make it foggy. And you'd be like, that's the only reason. It is quite a kind of scary, like, scene.
Yeah.
But it's, like, stuff like that, and I think it's probably for the better because it really gives a lot of tension.
Yeah. I think the cinematography is good. And I think that even though, yeah, everything's a set, I think it works well. The sets are believable. They don't look... I know that some stuff you're like, wow, you can tell that's a set. If you look at, like, the buildings in the square, you can kind of tell.
I mean, the square is really where that is, because that's the actual backlot.
Yeah. But I think everything works. Nothing makes me angry, really. And also, if we're talking about the, how it looks, the DeLorean itself.
A DeLorean is, a car I've never seen in real life.
No, I haven't either.
I hear they're really not good cars.
They don't really look like a great car, so I can believe it.
They're pieces of junk.
Yeah.
And I think it's, like, the guy who made the DeLorean was really thankful for this movie because it actually got people to buy them. I think there was something about him being involved in, like, a cocaine sting.
What?
Where they were like, I probably do not know all the facts of this story. But they were like, you want to invest in some sort of drug activity? And he was like, okay, money. And they were like, lol, got you. They were the cops.
Oh.
Something like that. He got caught for it, but it wasn't really his fault. He just made a bad decision. And so rip that guy.
Yeah.
He has a car that, well, people care about them now because of Back to the Future. Before that, I think they really just wanted a car that had those doors that would go up.
Yeah.
And I think they said because it looked more like a spaceship.
Yeah. Anyways, I think the car design... I know, like, the car itself's a DeLorean, but, like, the interior design of the car, it's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
It looks really fun. Yeah. The flux capacitor is
responsible for time travel. How? It just is.
I just think the design of it's really fun. It's, again, really iconic, the design of it.
And I think the costume design's also... the vest.
Yeah, the vest.
A life preserver. I really want to get one of those.
You should get one.
Just so I can be...
I'll find one for you.
Can we go as Doc and Marty for Halloween?
Sure.
Okay, who do you want to be?
I mean, I think that means that you want to be Marty, doesn't it?
I
can be crazy. I can just go around screaming at you. About...
I don't know how to skateboard, though.
Yeah, I don't either.
Well, you wouldn't have to if you're not Marty.
But I'm saying if I was Marty, I can't skateboard either. This is a discussion for another day.
Yeah, that, and then Doc's,
lab coat.
It's not even a lab coat.
It's like a
jumpsuit.
Yeah.
He's rocking the jumpsuits before they became popular.
Yeah. He's a trendsetter, man.
I mean, I guess in the 50s he's not wearing that.
Yeah.
The 50s outfits are cool.
Yeah.
Lorraine's dress is cool. Marty's wearing this one shirt in the cafeteria, which has, like, I don't know what... I don't know why.
We tried to figure out the pattern.
Every time I look at it, I'm like, what is on his shirt? I really
Yeah.
want to know because I like it. I think they're cars, but they might be
Maybe.
bills. Of
Dollar
money,
bills.
dollar bills.
Bills of money. What other kind of bills would it be?
I don't know, a gas bill? What do you want from me?
Receipts.
Yeah, I want that shirt.
Okay, we'll find the
I'm
shirt.
gonna wear that shirt and see if anybody notices. They won't, because he wears it in a
100% no.
total of one scene.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, the cinematography and the production design.
I think they're pretty solid. I think it works for the movie, and like, it really
But I
puts
think
you in
it's
the
also
world.
just such an iconic
Yeah.
design.
Yeah.
So, what is your final grade for that?
I think because I think the cinematography is like good,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not like groundbreaking.
I mean, what is groundbreaking cinematography?
I have no
anyways?
idea. But like, it's not. You know what I mean? It's not like you look at it and you're not like, wow,
Yeah.
that's really good cinematography. You're like, yeah, it's good cinematography. It's better than some cinematography, but it's not like crazy out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'll maybe give it. I guess I'll go 9. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll go with you on that
Yeah.
because I still think it is. Again, I've used this word too much in my life. Iconic.
But it's iconic. I mean, you can see a still from this movie,
No.
and you know that it's Back to the Future,
Yeah.
which I think says something.
Yeah.
So,
So I'll go with a 9. You'll go with a
Yep.
9. It's a total of 18 out of 20.
nice.
Nice. That brings us to round 4, editing and numeration. My least favorite named category. Scoring based on editing and music. What are your thoughts?
Oh, the music's your favorite word, iconic.
Absolutely.
And it just goes with the story so well.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't think the editing's crazy, like groundbreaking.
Sure.
Again, the like time travel stuff's fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'll maybe give it I'll start with an 8 again.
Hear me out.
She gave it a 10.
I'm gonna give her an initial 10,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna tell you why.
She likes her 10s.
I'm getting looks as if I'm insane. Maybe it'll change.
Maybe it will.
I think that like the editing specifically, if not for like the initial going back to the future or going back to the past scene
Mm-hmm.
and just like everything after that, the scene where he goes back to the future is just so good, and it's so much tension built up, and I think all of that comes from that editing.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I mean the music too, which I'll talk about. But like the fact that you have so much is happening, and the whole time you're like, oh my god, you know this man's going back to the future. They're not gonna end the movie with him staying in the past, although it could be interesting. And then he has to learn how to live his life. You have to wonder if it weren't for Jennifer Parker, would he really even care at all?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. But you're like, okay, I know he's gonna go back, but there's so much telling me that he might not. You know, Doc goes up and the thing comes undone and he has to go up and try and plug it back in and he can't.
It's so
and they got
dramatic.
like T-minus 30 seconds to go.
Him like hanging from the clock tower.
And then it drops and gets stuck on his pant leg.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my god, just grab it! And he can't grab it. And then Marty's like, okay, I'm ready. We're gonna go. Wish I had more time. I'll give myself 10 minutes.
What a mistake. If that was me, I would have given myself an extra like hour.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Give yourself like a day. I don't know.
No, I'd give myself like an hour.
Okay, I guess so.
Yeah.
Whatever. And the car dies and you're like, no.
Oh,
And it's like all the things that are obviously like, okay, well, you know, this happened. It makes
Yeah.
sense why they would do this. And it's just amazing.
Yeah, I guess that is chalked up too.
And you really get
The
a sense
tension
of like
building and
Doc's caring for Marty
Mm-hmm.
and that he's gonna risk his life in the name of science.
Yeah.
The man zip lines down the cord as if this thing could ever hold his weight.
Yeah.
And he gets shocked, electrocuted by lightning, plugging that thing in, flying back. And it's like last minute he gets the car to start. He's
I can tell you really like the editing.
Another thing about the editing is that this movie was finished on April 20th, 1985. And they had a test screening for it, and it was really positive. Everybody really liked it, as they should. So they were like, okay, we got to get this out for the summer. No chance we can let this go in late summer. We need it to be out for pretty much the whole summer so that we can get raking in those views throughout the whole thing. So like, okay, we're going to move this to July 3rd. That means they have like 2.5 months, maybe. Like, when do you have to be done editing a movie before it's released?
I have no idea.
Like, it's got to be like a week at least.
Probably more than that. I don't know.
Like, we don't know. But I assume you can't just be like, okay, it's released tomorrow.
No.
We'll finish it up tonight. You got to send that to the theaters.
Yeah.
So let's say late June.
Yeah.
They have to have this done.
Yeah.
Let's say they start editing late April. That's like maybe 2 months.
Yeah. That's like a really fast turnaround.
I mean, yeah, they can edit parts of it through while they're shooting. They had sound editors working like 24 hours.
Yeah.
It's crazy going in and out.
I mean, I think even like it being 2 months of sound editing. I don't know how long
That's a lot of
a
sound
feature
editing.
would.
And they also do visual effects.
Yeah.
And scoring it.
Yeah.
I just think it's such a fast turnaround. I still think the editing's really good.
Yeah.
Okay, and if not just for that stuff, let's talk about the music.
The music is amazing.
So the score is done by Alan Silvestri, who I'm pretty sure everyone within the ages of between 15 and 30 right now know who he is, even if they don't know who he is, because his music is so insanely big, because he does the Avengers scores.
Yeah.
And nobody talks about him, though.
Yeah, Avengers scores are just kind of like, everyone's like...
But like Alan Silvestri, like the Avengers score is pretty good.
Yeah.
Like the... And
gets you hyped, man.
Yeah, and so he gets put onto this movie. I think he did the score for the Romancing the Stone movie that he did with Robert Zemeckis, who did this one too. But Steven Spielberg didn't like it. So he was like, okay, you can do it, but you gotta make it big. So he's like, alright. So, like, this music makes a lot of this movie.
It does.
It is one of the most iconic scores. Everything about this movie is iconic.
I mean, the music
thoughts?
makes the time travel portions super epic. I mean, the like driving in the parking lot scene with Marty in the car. Oh, it's so good.
That's another part of building tension that I think is done between the editing and the
yeah. Like the music just builds really well in like every circumstance that the like main theme comes up. It builds really well, and then it like pays off right at the right moment, and it just makes it feel so epic.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel like it's so, like it accomplished so much. Like the scene just feels like it's capped off at a really nice spot.
Big score.
Yeah.
Like, and
it's really like epic sounding.
So that also, if we're talking about music, we probably have to talk about Huey Lewis and the News with The Power of Love.
Oh yeah.
We are pretty young.
Yeah.
So we weren't around in the 80s, but I'm pretty sure this song made that band pretty huge.
Oh, I would say 100%.
In a way that, like, I don't think anybody knows who they are anymore, if not for that movie.
Yeah.
And so they did 2 songs. They did The Power of Love, and they were like, hey, Huey Lewis and the News, we need a song that more encapsulates the future part of Back to the Future, time travel. Can you write us another song? And they're like, okay. How about Back in Time?
What a good name. It's such a fun song.
I actually think I like Back in Time more than The Power of Love.
Yeah, I think Back in Time's a stronger song. Power of Love, I really only know the, like, part where it says the power of love. I don't know the rest of that song, really. I mean, I do, but I definitely would know more of Back in Time.
Don't take money. Don't take fame. Don't need no credit card to ride this train.
I feel like I've definitely heard Back in Time more than it.
Really?
Yeah.
I think you're definitely lying. Back in Time.
Yeah.
Anyways, Huey Lewis in the news. Huey Lewis is actually in the movie. He played the guy on the megaphone.
Oh.
Who's like, when they're doing the Battle of the Bands thing.
Yeah.
I don't think he's credited, because I think he was like, no, you can't. Because he's apparently pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And that guy was not.
Okay.
So anyways, I just think that the music and the editing for that scene alone makes me feel like this movie's a 10.
Okay. I mean, I think that the music and the editing is, like, works together really well, and I think that they complement each other.
I think also the part where he's in the bed and it's like, doodle-doodle. Wait,
Yeah.
that's not that part.
That's,
I think that's at the beginning of the second movie.
No, that happens in, like, random spots in the first movie.
Yeah, the, like, little
Yeah.
little wind chimey. I don't know what
Yeah.
it is. It's not a wind chime, but the
Wind chime.
the scene where he's in the bed, though,
Yeah.
that's a good, very light, soaring score. Is there anything else you want to say?
I think it's all been said. I think the editing's...
So are you going to keep it at an 8?
I know you love the editing. I know you think it's really good. I also think it's really good. But I think that it's not top tier. I think that definitely it builds tension in a good way.
Fine.
But I think there's stuff that could be improved, definitely, in the editing. I think the music's perfect. I love the music, and I love the way that the music's used in the movie. But I think the editing knocks it down a little bit. So I'll give it a 9.
9? Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? I guess is perfect editing a thing? Maybe, and maybe it's not here.
It is your opinion.
And
though.
for that, well, I know, but it's my opinion that maybe that is something to consider. So I'll knock it down to a 9.5.
Okay.
What are the fractions? Can we do like 9.75?
Let's not do fractions.
Fine, 9.5 and a 9.
9.75.
9.999.
Repeating.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
That's a 18.5. Okay, round 5, societal sum. Scoring based on impact film has on the industry and on society as a whole.
I feel like this has got to get like a 10.
Oh, yeah, I gave it a 10 too.
Yeah.
Why do you think that?
I mean, this movie, everybody knows, even if they haven't seen the movie, you've heard of the movie, and you've definitely seen scenes in the movie, even if it's a spoofed scene that's in something else. It is any, like, cartoon has done some sort of parody Back to the Future episode. Like, I guarantee Simpsons probably has one. Family Guy probably has one. I might be wrong about this.
Family Guy has lots of, like, Family Guy does lots of cutaway scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do reference it. I have seen a couple.
Yeah. So, like, and then, again, we mentioned this earlier. There's literally Rick and Morty. They're, like, partially, loosely, the idea was because of Back to the Future. Kind of. So there's so many things that came because of this movie that I think it's everyone knows about it. The impact of it was insane.
Yeah, and I think it's hard because we, again, are at an age where we weren't around when it came out. But, like, my parents remember seeing that movie in theaters.
Yeah.
And it was, like, a pretty big deal for the time. The movie spent 11 weeks at number 1, which is pretty crazy. It was the top grossing film of 1985 with $389.1 million.
That's a good amount of money.
It's quite a bit of money for
that.
And it is, I think, something that is so, I guess, and like it shows a lot of that time, even when it's set a lot not even in that time.
Yeah, even the small amount that it is in the 80s,
Yeah.
It says a lot about the 80s.
Yeah, which it kind of shows that like the 80s is...
They're like, 80s sucks.
I
80s is
mean,
dirty.
I enjoy the 80s.
But that's what the movie's
I think
saying.
that's kind of like the 50s was a time where everything did seem really clean
and like perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though, I mean, it probably wasn't like
No.
that. But, yeah, it's just it has such a place in so many people's hearts, I think.
Yeah.
And for that generation, it was one of the biggest movies ever.
Yeah.
It was nominated for Best Screenplay, Best Original Song, Best Sound Mixing, and won for Best Sound Effects Editing.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Sound effects are pretty strong.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised that it really got nominated for Oscars at all. I mean, I feel like screenplay, I don't know what won that year, but I feel like screenplay maybe should have won, because I think it is a really good screenplay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised it didn't win for Best Original Song, because that song was huge.
Yeah. I'm curious what, beat it.
Let's look. Let's see.
This sounds like something that'll make me angry. I'll hear what it is and I'll be like, no chance.
Say You, Say Me by Lionel Richie. I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is either. I was like, does she know this? You were like, and I'm like, she knows this song?
Like, absolutely not.
Yeah, so that makes me mad. Because,
It could be a good song.
I mean, it could be a good song, but...
That's another thing about the Oscars, is that sometimes they say, oh, this is the best whatever, and then it's like, okay, but nobody actually cares.
Yeah.
So it's hard to really trust, because they can't really see what the preservation is of that. And I think it's like, movies like this, I think, will be easier for us to judge, because it has been some time since they've come out.
Yeah, we've already seen the impact of this movie.
Yeah.
Because it's been so many years after that, everyone knows about it, and we have an idea of what people's reactions are to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
It ranked 28 on Entertainment Weekly's 50 Best High School Movies, and it's been on many other lists, for, best top whatever movies. In 2007, is selected to be preserved in the National Film Registry for being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant.
Ooh.
I don't know what that means.
I don't either, but I believe it.
I've heard of movies being preserved in the National Film Registry, and I just don't know what that means. Do they actually have it physically, a copy?
Probably. I don't know. Does that mean that, if the world ends, this vault will contain all of these movies for then,
like
the aliens
Disney
to
vault.
come and, be like, this is how the world was.
I have no
Here's
idea.
Back to the Future.
Or is it just them saying this movie's really important and we're saying it is?
I like to think that it's the vault idea, but it's probably that they're just saying that it's important.
Yeah.
Maybe it's both. I don't know.
I think also something that was iconic about this movie is skateboarding.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was one of the things that made that subculture of skateboarding popular. I wonder how many kids were like, you know what, let's just go around grabbing onto the back of cars.
Did people do that? Imagine.
I mean, probably, but their parents were probably like, don't do that. Have you ever seen someone do it on the back of a random person's car or their own car, their friend's car? Because Marty's just going on grabbing onto the town's. He grabs onto a cop car at one point.
Yeah.
I can see
I'd be
people
mad.
being like, okay, I'm going to do a cool trick with my friends, my buddies, and, you know?
But not going down the
highway.
I was about to say highway. I didn't mean highway. Going down the road.
You're going 110 down
on a skateboard.
Down the Trans-Canada Highway.
Don't
on
do
a
that.
Skateboard.
Don't do that.
No,
No, but going down like just a random road and you're just grabbing onto random cars.
Yeah, I don't know.
That would be. Anyways.
It's probably illegal, but
yeah, probably.
but the movie, spawns a trilogy. I don't think they were not planning to do that when they started the movie, which is kind of evident when you watch the next two movies.
You're like, what's happening?
I think the thing about Marty being a flat art character or whatever is something they were like, oh God, what are we supposed to do for the next two movies? We have to give him something that has to make him have some sort of change, just where the whole chicken thing comes in.
Yeah.
He's like, nobody calls me a chicken. And it's like, when did this become your complex?
Yeah.
There's no sign of it in the first one.
Yeah.
So I feel like 2 and 3 kind of feel like continuations and like they're really connected to each other. But
one to the other ones.
I mean, they do connect because 2 you go back to 1, and there's parts in that like I really like 2. I know some people are like, but I'm especially the second half of 2 I think is really well done.
The first half of 2 is kind of like
the first half of 2 is kind of like fun. Oh, what's in the future?
Yeah.
But the second half is really where it connects to the story. Yeah, and the references and pop culture, the dressing up for Halloween. I've seen lots of people dress up as Doc and Marty for Halloween.
Yeah, I have too.
Including us a couple months from now, or whenever Halloween is. So yeah, I think societally it's had a big impact.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think it's safe to say this is a 10.
Yeah, I think it's a 10.
Alright, give us a 20 out of 20. So that brings us to the bonus best round.
I'm excited.
Alright, so how this is going to work, we're going to be given 3 categories. We have not heard these categories yet. We've been given these categories by our producer, McKenna. And we're going to decide if they are the best movie in the category that she has given to us. We have to discuss it and perhaps argue about it. Maybe we'll just agree. And if it wins, it gets a bonus point.
Maybe she'll get mad at us and she'll stop producing for us if she really thinks that we're wrong.
I don't know.
We'll see.
Alright. Best time travel movie. What are our contenders? Back to the Future, Interstellar, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
What is that?
12 Monkeys. I'd also, it definitely doesn't win, but like technically Endgame's a time travel movie.
Yeah.
In which they explain the laws of time travel in that movie quite differently.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, your past cannot... you can't change your past, because when you go to the past, that past becomes your future, and the future becomes your past. And I'm like, what?
Time travel's confusing.
That sounds like a very individual way of looking at time travel, as being like, it's only relevant to you as who you are. Because it'll become your past. You go back to the past.
Well, because if you go...
The future is your past. Because you were there.
Yeah.
But it's not anyone in that past, because they were never there.
I don't know, it's very complicated.
Well, in that movie, they're like, oh, we're going to take the stones, and we're gonna bring them here, so we can make the gauntlet and bring everybody back. We're gonna go put them back.
Yeah, which
so
that makes sense.
Everyone can have this, so that the same thing can happen.
Like, that makes sense, is that it's like you're taking it and then putting it back at the exact same time, then it never left that time.
For why, though? What difference does it make, though?
Because if you take them, because they're taking it from a moment in the past, if you take it away from that past, the past doesn't have it now, so stuff after it can't happen.
But they said you can't change the past.
Except that you can.
So
well, but if you take something from the past,
then a different timeline, like we're saying, like the Back to the Future explanation or whatever, and then we apply that to being like, you can't change the past because this is now your future. Then it doesn't matter because it obviously still happened.
I think the thing is that anything that you take from the past, like if you took this water bottle that no one can see but you can see, Chelsea.
Yeah.
Someone came from the future and took this water bottle from me, and I was very sad. If they took it, this water bottle's gone from right now because they have it and it's not here. But if they came back at the same time that if they came back to this time right now when they took my water bottle and gave it back to me, I still have this water bottle. And
Yeah.
they also had the water bottle for an amount of time.
So
Meaning that the past for them, which is now, would have changed for me because I no longer have a water bottle.
no, but like that makes sense. That's fine. But like, like say the water bottle actually has poison in it, and the poison is gonna poison
Me.
sure, whatever. And that's
What's my water bottle?
yeah. And so they're gonna take the water bottle.
To save me?
No, it's not gonna
What?
poison you because that's not gonna work.
Okay, fine.
It's gonna poison somebody's.
Oh,
He's
okay.
already dead though.
We're going back in time.
No. Okay, that was a bad example. But
Yeah,
it's
it
like
was.
it's more so like if they take the water bottle.
Mm-hmm.
Now my point is like if the water bottle kills someone, say it's a bomb. The water bottle turns out it's a bomb somehow, just because it is. And
water bottle's a bomb.
and so they take it because
Yeah.
they need a bomb.
Okay.
But the bomb actually has to kill someone here in order for
Uh-huh.
something to happen in the future.
Yeah.
So they bring it back to do that. But they're saying that you can't affect the past because when you go into the past, it becomes your future. And your future becomes your past. So the only reason they would have to return the bomb here is to kill the person in our timeline because they've already lived through that. They can't change it because it's already happened to them. So they're only really saving the rest of the timelines.
I don't know, man. I think this is the hole that time travel people get into when they're writing time travel movies. They're like, we don't know how to make this
I'm just
work.
saying if they were selfish, they wouldn't have to worry about returning the time stones.
I think they have to.
No, because I don't think that you can, because they said you can't change it, because it's already happened.
I don't think that's what they meant.
That's what they said.
I mean, they might have said that, but I don't think that's what
Give
they
us a
meant.
comment in the comments
think-
below.
I think they mean, I think you have to put it back because then it still exists in that time because people still have to use it after that.
No, because it's already
No.
happened. They already did it.
Oh my god.
So, I mean, Endgame's obviously not winning, but I just
Yeah.
want to talk about that. I honestly would say Back to the Future is probably, for me, the best time travel movie. Because I haven't seen the other
Well,
ones.
you've seen Interstellar.
Okay, sure, I still like Back to the Future more.
Yeah, I do too.
But I also think it's probably the most,
I mean,
beloved.
the thing
maybe
is,
not, maybe.
we haven't seen the other movies other than Interstellar in this
Are
category.
we saying best time travel in terms of the use of time travel
think we're
and
saying-
the realisticness?
No, I think we're saying the best movie that
or the
has
best
time
movie
travel
that
in it.
includes time
right?
travel. So as a general movie that includes time travel, I would say Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Because
I think it's Back
at
to the
this
Future.
point, Back to the Future is going to have, like, what, high 90s of a rating, and 12 Monkeys has a 0, because we're never doing that movie. Do you want to say yes, then?
Yeah, we'll
Alright,
say.
we'll say yes. It's 1 bonus point. Give us a second bonus round. Best movie that isn't ruined by casual incest.
Okay.
Okay, what are our contenders? Clueless.
Okay.
Cruel Intentions, and Back to the Future. Yeah, I would
Oh, and
also
Star Wars.
argue Empire Strikes Back
Mm-hmm.
does have that in it. I've never seen Cruel Intentions. I have seen Clueless.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue that Clueless isn't so much incesty because he's not actually her brother. He's a stepbrother. And I don't know when he became her stepbrother, because I don't know if they grew up together, if they were only step-siblings for like a year or something. I feel like it wasn't a long time. But I am not mad about it.
Yeah.
I would never say that Clueless is a better movie than Back to the Future, though. But that movie's fine. That being said, Empire Strikes Back is like... I thoroughly enjoy that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I give that movie 5 stars on Letterboxd. Being said, I also gave Back to the Future 5 stars on Letterboxd. But I guess
Okay.
here's the thing about Star Wars and the incest thing, is that when it first started in A New Hope, I don't think George Lucas knew that they were going to be siblings. Which is arguable, because nobody really knows that, and I think he says, oh yeah, no, I totally knew, but he definitely did not. And it sort of starts off as being like, Luke kind of has a thing for Leia, but Leia was always supposed to be with Han. And in the second one, she only actually kisses Luke to make Han jealous.
Mm.
So, I mean, like, yeah, it's the incest isn't a huge part of the story, whereas I think Back to the Future, it's like the main plot revolves around the fact that his mom is in love with him.
That is true. It's a very prominent part of the movie. It's the fact that he's like, oh damn, I gotta get my parents back together because now my mom has the hots for me.
Are you telling me that my mom has got the hots for me?
Yeah.
He says, are you telling me a lot?
You telling me?
That you built a time machine out of a
DeLorean?
DeLorean? That isn't ruined, though.
What?
You say that isn't ruined by casual incest.
No,
That's
it's
the
not.
Category. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I don't think it is. So I feel like the big contenders are either Back to the Future or Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Star Wars is one massive franchise. I mean, Back to the Future is 2, but I would argue that Star Wars is a lot bigger of a franchise. Star Wars is, if we can talk about Star Wars, Star Wars is a movie that came out in the late 70s, and kids today, like little kids, still love it. I mean, it has spawned a lot of TV shows and stuff, but that movie was responsible for, like, I think it kind of created the modern blockbuster, and also was responsible for, like, action figures, and, like, that was, like, a big thing that spawned that kind of stuff to be popular.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen Star Wars. I've seen the first one.
You've seen the second one, too. I made you watch Empire Strikes Back.
No, you didn't.
You did.
You put it on and I didn't watch it.
That's not fair. We have to watch The Empire Strikes Back now.
No, actually, I think I came in and you were... No, yeah, this is what happened. I came in and you were already rewatching it. So you had it, like, halfway through, but it was halfway through the movie. So I was like, I'm not going to start watching it now.
I was like, I grew up never watching it because my mom hated Star Wars. And I thought, okay, well, it's just kind of like a nerdy thing. I'm not super into sci-fi, so I don't think I would like it. Like, I didn't really ever like Star Trek that much.
My family was a Star Trek family.
My mom loves Star Trek.
Yeah.
She hates Star Wars.
My family loves Star Trek.
So I never watched it. And then McKenna was like, you should watch Star Wars. And I was like, you know what? Fine. Like, the most Star Wars knowledge I had was the Family Guy episodes where they spoofed Star Wars and did, like, the whole movie.
Yeah.
But then I really like the original trilogy. I've only seen the first 2 of the prequels and the first 2 of the sequels, or whatever. So, I haven't seen all of it, but the original trilogy is, like, pretty iconic.
Yeah.
It's really good. So, you know, it's hard, but... I would honestly say that Back to the Future, I think because it relies more on that maybe it gives it an edge on the incest thing.
On the incest scale. I mean, yeah, I will say that, like, I know what happens in Star Wars, so I don't have zero knowledge on it, but I know that, like, it's not that big of a part of that movie.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like a layer.
The movie's not really about that.
No.
And I know people are kind of weirded out by it. I don't really care.
But Back to the Future is, like, it's a main plot point.
Yeah.
So if we're going by, like, the quantity of incest in the movie, Back to the Future wins, I would say. But it still doesn't ruin it.
You want to give it a point?
I mean, I think I'd give it a point, but that's from someone who hasn't seen Star Wars. So I think it's...
Yeah, I think we should give it the point. Okay. I just think because it revolves more around that, it deserves it.
Okay.
Okay. And the third one?
Ooh.
Best movie that recasts the main actor while filming. Are there other contenders for this?
Yeah, there's a good one.
Oh, okay. There's more.
I'm excited.
Okay.
Okay.
So apparently our contenders are Shrek.
Recasting Shrek.
Recasting Shrek with Mike Myers from Chris Farley because he passed away, which is really sad. Lord of the Rings, recasting Aragorn with whoever it was who's hot. Oh yeah, Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah.
Oh, he's kind of weird. He is hot. With we don't know. And Paddington, who they recast Paddington. I'm guessing the voice of Paddington because Paddington himself is a CGI dad. They replaced Colin Firth with Ben Winchester. Isn't Colin Firth in that movie? Doesn't he play the main guy?
Because he sounded too old. So they...
Isn't Colin... I'm pretty sure...
So they did the whole they like recorded it and then they were like, "Nah, you sound too
Have
old."
you ever seen
Just
the movie,
kidding.
have you seen Her?
I have not.
Yeah. No, yeah. So Her, they shot with they made the voice of whatever,
Of
what's her name? Yeah, Samantha. They recast her and they made it Scarlett Johansson because it was some other girl before that. They shot the whole movie.
Jeez.
All of Joaquin Phoenix's parts that he shot with, whatever actress voicing it. They redid it all at the end.
Wow. Okay, so let's go through each of our contenders and talk about
so
them.
Shrek. I feel like Mike Myers is kind of born to play that role.
Yeah. You can't really imagine Shrek as anyone else. Next we'll go to Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings. We
Okay.
don't know who did it, but
I mean,
feel like
again,
it was probably a good choice.
Yeah.
What else has Viggo Mortensen been in that's really big? Other than, like, Green Book.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, say what you want about Green Book, whatever. He was pretty good in it.
Yeah. I mean, again, I can't imagine that character as anyone else. So,
In Lord of the Rings?
yeah.
I've seen Lord of the Rings, like, once.
But, like, even
so
seeing
long.
it not very much, you imagine that character,
I do know
and you're
him.
like, yeah,
He actually is
that's the
probably,
character.
other than, like, Bilbo. Actually, I guess I was gonna say he's probably the character that I know the most. But then I'm like, okay, but I mean, Bilbo's pretty iconic, and Gollum's pretty iconic.
Yeah.
And not Dumbledore. What's his name? The guy who looks like Dumbledore.
Oh my god.
The guy who isn't he Dumbledore, but no.
Gandalf.
Yeah. Gandalf,
Wow.
the gray and white and whatever. Both.
Oh my god.
And I just feel like
I think all of the Lord of the Rings characters
Orlando
are-
Bloom. I don't know his name. Legolas.
Oh my god. I think all of the characters in Lord of the Rings were ended up being pretty perfect.
Yes, I feel like that's probably a good thing that happened.
Yeah.
I'm crying.
Okay.
What
were the other
Paddington?
Paddington.
Which the only reason we're discussing Paddington is because it has such a randomly high Rotten Tomatoes score.
Yeah, what the heck?
We don't care about Rotten Tomatoes here at CineGrade because
No.
we are our own Rotten Tomatoes.
Who needs Rotten Tomatoes?
Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes.
When you Google a
relies on-
film, we aspire to have Rotten Tomatoes come up, the random like audience score, and then our score.
I'm very cautious about judging a film based on a Rotten Tomatoes score. Because there's so many films I enjoy that just don't have very high scores.
Yeah.
Without a Paddle has a 14%. That's not fair. that movie's good.
Without a paddle.
What?
What a meme of a
My
movie.
point is, like...
Rotten Tomatoes you can't trust.
Yeah, because there's so
Yeah.
many other people's opinions. That's
Yeah.
why you should take the CineGrade test.
Yeah.
And you should give your own score.
Wow. That was really smooth.
What? I'm serious.
I know. I'm saying it was smooth.
But, like, Paddington has, like, 100%. For what reason?
That's crazy.
I saw that movie in theaters.
I have not seen Paddington.
Paddington is another example of the flat arc character. Where he's, like, pure and everyone around him is the one who changes.
Wow.
Paddington is the Marty McFly of bear movies.
Paddington.
I don't know.
Okay.
So, I don't know if that matters, but
I mean, what I'll say about Paddington is that, I mean, I have not seen it, but it doesn't seem like a movie that if it was a different person, it would ruin it, you know?
yeah, I mean,
So-
voice acting is kind of different.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not Colin Firth, it's Hugh Bonneville.
Like, it could,
Kind of
like,
looks
yeah, a voice actor can change, like, a character, but it definitely doesn't change it as much as, like, the fact that all these other things, it's people where you see them and them themselves and things that they do make it iconic and, like, memorable. But definitely Paddington, I guarantee you could,
Here's the reason why I don't think any of those win this point, other
Whoa.
than Back to the Future.
okay.
It's because it's just so sad. They shot, like, 6 weeks. 6 weeks of your life to have one of the biggest movies come out with a different actor in your place.
I mean, like, it's a rip for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
All of these recasts, it's so sad because a lot of them, it's like really big movies. These poor people that then got replaced. It's so sad. But
I mean, Back
I
to
don't
the
know.
Future is just an iconic movie.
It is.
And I think this story of Eric Stoltz is pretty well known because Marty McFly is quite an iconic character.
And it's really attributed to him.
And it's really probably just because of Michael J. Fox. And so...
This is a hard category.
yeah,
Because I also think it kind of does make a difference how much of their lives these other people put into the movie. If they put a lot of time into it, I feel like that's worse of a recast.
that being said, when you think of Michael J. Fox, I don't know if you think of him as really anybody other than Marty McFly.
Yeah.
I mean, his part on Family Ties was really big, and he won a lot of Emmys for playing that role.
But other than that...
But he was in Teen Wolf, which I don't think was a very good movie, but people went and saw it because it was Michael J. Fox. And I would argue that now, because of his whole thing with his Parkinson's disease, that's a lot of what people think about when they think of him, is because he was really affected by that. And he has, like, a lot of charities for it. Michael J. Fox, I'm going to say, is a pretty cool guy. He's very nice.
He seems like a cool guy.
He seems like he's just a genuinely good person. You know?
I don't know.
Like, what are we saying? Is this the best movie? Is it, like, the saddest? Like, are we going for what movie is the best that has a recasted character, or which one is the saddest?
Or are we saying they got replaced?
Like, because
but
the guy got replaced, he only did a week of filming for Lord of the Rings, but he did 6 months of stunt training.
And stunt training's, like, really intensive.
Which is a lot of work.
Yeah.
But how iconic is Viggo Mortensen's character compared to Marty McFly?
I think the fact that if you're saying that he did stunt training for, like, 6 months, that is, like, a long time to then be, like, go to filming. You're so excited. You fly to New Zealand. You've been working on this movie for 6 months, training, getting your life ready to play this role, and you go there for a week, and they're like, you know, man, they bring you aside, and you're like, you know, man, it's not working.
Yeah.
That is heartbreaking. So I think I give it to Lord of the Rings.
You would say Lord of the Rings. I would say Back to the Future.
Yeah, so it's not going to get the point.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, that being said, it is time to add up all of our categories and our bonus points.
Okay.
Okay, so adding up all of our scores, including, should we do a drum roll?
We can, that's an edit.
Okay. Including our bonus points, our final score is 95.5%.
Wow.
What grade is that?
Chelsea's excited. A plus?
A+. Oh my god, making it our highest rated podcast episode ever.
That's pretty good.
That is
good. I think
that's a strong start, and I think it's deserved because this movie has really shaped my childhood.
I think it's also a movie that shaped a lot of people's childhoods.
Yeah.
And, like, it's everywhere. It's in so much, like, pop culture.
I mean, if you haven't seen this movie, I have no idea why you're listening to this, but you definitely should, because it's just the type of movie that, I mean, it was huge at the time, and it's still kind of living on today.
Even if you haven't watched it in a while, go rewatch it. It deserves a rewatch.
Yeah, this is just the type of movie that I'm probably going to show my kids, and then hopefully my kids will show their kids.
Yeah.
If I don't have kids, I'm showing it to my nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
Which are not born yet, but one day. I'm making everybody watch this. I need to carry the legacy of Back to the Future on to next generations, because it's just a solid movie.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to say about it?
I think that's about it.
Alright, so that ends this episode. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at cine.grade or on Twitter at CineGrade to keep up with what films we review next. Feel free to send us suggestions on Instagram or email us at cinegradepodcast@gmail.com. Let us know how you feel about the film. Send us your own CineGrade and give us any thoughts you had. Also, if you liked us, give us a 5-star review on Apple or wherever you listen to us. Help us bump up the charts. Get us up there. We really appreciate you. Where can they reach you? Where can they reach you, Elsha?
They can reach me on Instagram at Elsha. It's nice and simple.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
also reach me on Instagram at _ChelseaMitchell_. If you want to keep up with us personally or ask us any questions, never hesitate to reach out. We're always up for conversation. So I think that's it for this week. So stay safe, stay happy, and we'll see you